Hi, everyone. I think this is now working. Welcome to another edition of this podcast. Chain Reaction, new and reimagined discussion about everything that's happening in crypto. So I guess the second version of this, we're still going through some audio-visual pains, so please bear with me. But it's a happening week, so it's a fun week. It's a sunny, gorgeous day. What is it now? It's July something or another, middle of July, 2025, and Bitcoin is hitting all-time highs even as I speak. So I think there's a lot to discuss there. And then there was some exciting news on the Bitcoin front with about 80,000 Bitcoin moving all at once. So let's discuss also what that means. So I even have some slides to help me keep us on track. So maybe we'll be able to display the slides if the AV gods are with us. I don't know if the AV gods are with us. Can we display more slides now? Yeah, there we go. All right, let's talk a little bit about Bitcoin all-time highs. So it's wonderful to see Bitcoin gain acceptance. It's wonderful to hear from people saying things like, hey, I understand the Bitcoin value proposition. It's digital gold. I don't understand that value proposition myself too well, but it's wonderful that the normies have decided that they have a better gold. And so it is a better gold. Why would you dig out some kind of a random shiny rock from the ground that you then keep in a vault back underground? That always struck me as weird. And so you might as well use Bitcoin. It's much better, much safer to store, much easier to send around the world. So it's clearly a better version of gold if you're going to use it like gold. So the normies have finally caught up, right? Boomers have caught on to Bitcoin. And that's what's happening. And if I look at the space, the way I think about it, the current zeitgeist is kind of like, what people say about child growth. There's something called regression. So your kid kind of grows up, he or she learns a bunch of words, beginning to put stuff in his mouth and, whatever, and starts doing, meeting certain developmental guidelines. And then they go backwards. They just have to necessarily go backwards. They forget the words they used to know. And, they stop being able to do the things they used to do. It's only so that they can sort of grow again. And then the growth spurt happens, and then suddenly they're back to where they were with a vengeance, and they're going forward. So that's what I think is happening. The Biden craziness, the choke point 2.0 took us back. That was the regression. And we went from being a technological leader, we went from the space that everybody is looking at to suddenly the SBF stupidity also happened at the same time. All of the SAM coins and their collapse really set us back. We regressed. And now boomers are coming in and they're retreading that ground that we already had covered, and they're rediscovering all that stuff that you and I and everybody else has known for a long time. So I've been around for a very long time. As you can tell from the white hairs here, and many other, I was here in 2002, way before the Bitcoin paper was published. And for us, this is kind of like, okay, I'm glad you're catching up. Good for you. And I kind of like, in my mind, I have that private equity guy from TikTok. I don't know if you know that guy. Good for you. So I look around. I live in Manhattan. I encounter these people who tell me about their Bitcoin holdings and stuff, and I just go like, yeah, good for you. And I channel my inner private equity guy, thinking, okay, good. Very soon you'll discover that there is much more to life than hoarding gold in an underground vault that you don't even see or know it's there. So that's sort of how I view this. But we celebrate all-time highs for any coin, but especially Bitcoin. We celebrate it because it heralds what is to come. The money always gets excited. It has to get excited about something. The money that's on the sidelines. And Bitcoin reaching all-time highs is typically the first of this, and there's almost always a rotation into other assets. And the longer that takes, the better and bigger that rotation is going to be. So now what I'm seeing is Bitcoin at all-time highs. I'm seeing Ethereum also begin to sort of rear its head a little bit. So that's great to see, and that's exactly as expected. Now, deep down, do I really think that this is the big run that a lot of people have been expecting? To be honest with you all, I actually don't think that this is that one. I think this is just people getting bored and itching to go. And the market does this. It kind of wants to go. We had one of these, I don't know, when was it? It was in February or something. We had it in February. We had it before, shortly after the election results came out. I think we had it at the end of November. We had it in Feb. Now we're having this one. If I look at the macro situation, I don't actually see that many big changes. I haven't seen Powell step down. I haven't seen a more dovish Fed in charge. I haven't seen Trump's requests for a looser monetary policy met at the Fed level. So I think when those conditions change, then things will get really, really exciting and interesting. This is the sort of the preliminaries. This is kind of like the first couple of happy, sweet conversations at the beginning of a date, and but it's not the clinching kiss yet. It's not the thing that says, oh my God, sparks are flying, we're now going places. So I'm watching this. It's exciting to see. So amidst all this, somebody moved 80,000 BTC. And then there was a lot of discussion about how come there's so much money flowing around. Did somebody hack Bitcoin's encryption? Did are funds safe? Is it possible that funds that had never moved could be hacked? And who could have been behind this? What happened, etc. So let me tell you a little bit at the technical level what happened, and let me just sort of kill any and all discussion about how this was a quantum computing attack, etc. That's all crazy talk, okay? Bitcoiners love to jump into some crazy conversations with great market effects as well. I've seen them. There was it 5 years ago, 5 or 6 years ago, all of a sudden, there was a lot of discussion fueled by one person that I've met and everybody knows is not very mentally stable, is sort of the nice way to say it. If he's watching this, I love you, man, but I met you and you weren't okay then. But anyway, so this one person started this entire thing about extraterrestrials doing something to Bitcoin or whatnot, and then suddenly people got like all up in a tizzy and craziness ensued. So this whole 80,000 Bitcoin move created a similar kind of a tizzy, and then suddenly people are like, is there a quantum computer somewhere? Did it break Bitcoin's encryption? And all that kind of stuff. Here's what actually happened. A bunch of coins moved. Those coins were sitting at an address, and that address had never been used. So what does that mean? The way Bitcoin addresses are calculated, they're calculated from a public-private key pair. So there are two keys, the private key that we all hold and guard, and then there's a corresponding public one. If you know the public key, and there's an amazingly powerful quantum computer of the kind nobody has ever even dreamt of at the moment yet, but if there was one, right, some kind of an amazing Uber QC, amazing quantum computer, then it is perhaps possible to be able to break to be able to divine the private key, having seen the public key. But these public keys have never been used. So the way things sit at a Bitcoin address is that they sit at an address that is the hash of this public key. It's in fact a double hash. It's a SHA-256 of a ripe MD hash. So they use a European hash function and an American derived hash function, just in case a secret service was involved in the creation of a hash function and could reverse a one-way hash. So or rather, not they. Satoshi did that trick. He uses two separate hash functions. So for someone to go from the one-way hash function to reverse it, to discover then the public key, and then to go from the public key to the private key, they would have to have not only a quantum computer, but something of the kind that we've never seen before. Okay? Quantum computing is not magic. It doesn't mean that if you have one of these devices, you could just compute anything and everything in one step. Okay? It still requires work. It makes certain operations a little easier. One of the things it makes easier is factoring numbers. So that allows you to go from the public key to the private key a lot faster than you would normally with a classical computer. So that's great. There's something called Shor's algorithm that's used for this. Wonderful stuff, very cool stuff. But quantum computing does not allow you to go backwards through a one-way hash, at least not any of the one-way hashes that are used in Bitcoin. using techniques that are known today. So one would have to reverse that one-way hash function, and that is, as far as anybody knows, impossible, and there is not even the beginnings of how one would do that faster with a quantum computer compared to a classical computer. So let me just put the probability of somebody reversing a hash function, reversing another hash function designed entirely by a different group of people working on an entirely different set of principles, and then solving the factoring situation. That the probability of that is essentially zero. Okay, so that's just, is it possible? Yeah, okay, maybe I'll as a scientist, I can't speak in extreme absolutes, but no, that's not what happened. Okay, it's just not what happened. What did happen is somebody moved their coins. They had the private key, they moved their coins. And there's a little bit more that happened there. While the keys were moving, there were a couple of sort of accompanying things that happened. Somebody sent a bunch of messages, and somebody used the Bitcoin Cash chain. So, and the messages that were sent, they kind of betray a flair for drama, and they expose some kind of a need to create the illusion that there was perhaps some kind of a hack, that the person who's now in charge of the private key acquired it, through some means, and is collecting these coins that are at a dead address, etc. So who could that be? And so there are two names that come to mind immediately. I'm not going to name the actual names, but let me just tell you what could have happened. So the flair for drama, the need to distance oneself, all of that point to somebody who's deeply involved in the crypto space. Okay, somebody who's coming from the QC world. All my scientist friends who do quantum computing, they would never know to send a message of that kind. They would never even care. They'd just be like, I broke this thing, it's mine now, I'd move it. Like, they would just move on with life. That flair, that betrays something about that person's personality, and the need to create that hacking narrative probably betrays something about their legal situation. So my suspicion is this person perhaps went to jail and ended up having some coins before he went to jail. He was required to give up his coins when he went to jail. Or perhaps this person left the country, left his citizenship, and at that point was required to declare all of his holdings and pay tax on them. And he may or may not have declared all of his holdings. So it's some situation of that kind that I suspect happened. And now they're reclaiming the coins on the other side. They've come out of jail. They've come out of their legal situation. They're in a different spot now. They want to use those old coins, and they need some narrative to say, hey, look, this new me is not the old me. And of course, that brings to mind, as I said, I wasn't going to name names, but I think I can name this name. There's a very good movie where there's a person who goes through different personalities. There's the new one, there's the old one, and I'm not referring to Gandalf the Grey versus Gandalf the White. I'm referring, of course, to the Dread Pirate Roberts. That's just the Dread Pirate Roberts is just a name. There's a person that changes over time. So I think what you're seeing there is someone, personality N+1 saying, hey, I got these coins, and those coins actually belong to the same very person in the previous epoch. But somehow he wants to sort of disconnect himself from his previous incarnation because there was a phase in his life where he had to declare those coins and he didn't declare them. So that's what I think happened. And does it have any implications? No. This person is a great hodler. I think this person must have been holding these coins, kind of maybe forced to hold them. Who knows? And so it's great. So they now have a crap ton of money. I think it's about $8+ billion, and power to them. I hope they use it for good, and Bitcoin will do whatever it does after this episode. So I thought that was a lot of fun. I thought that was interesting. It's always good to have some kind of a story that gets people's attention. It's kind of weird though how people jump to crazy conclusions. And I don't know about you, but I've been kind of depressed lately about the state of social media. People jump to crazy conclusions. I find that truth or scientific facts are very hard to get across. I don't see them. My Twitter timeline is crazy crazy. It's full of craziness. I don't know what happened. Grok's craziness, Elon's craziness is sort of seeping through. So it kind of hurts me as a as an academic, as a scientist, to watch some of this happen. So I hope that in the future, before people jump onto this, oh my God, the world is falling apart, quantum computing has broken stuff, before they do that, I hope they would calm down. Oh, the other thing that people did say was not just quantum computing, was perhaps this, that someone might have broken the random number generation functionality on certain computers that may have been used in the old days to create those addresses. That I found a bit more plausible. So that's somewhat sensible explanation. It's not outlandish. It's not crazy. That's possible. The correctness or the source of true randomness used in random number generators is something of great concern to every cryptographer. And in the old days, we went through a phase prior to 2012 to 2011. We went through a phase where there were some hardware and some Linux implementations where random number generation was not very good. But to my knowledge, all of those coins have already been mined. In fact, there's a funny story involving this. It's actually kind of, I digress, but this is my podcast where I talk about random stuff. But there was a very funny conversation, a very funny conference that I attended. So we had two cryptographers who wrote, two cryptographers and their teams from University of Pennsylvania at the time. So so it's a husband-wife team, fantastic young cryptographers, and they were one of the first people to discover that the source of randomness used on certain hardware platforms back then was not very good, and therefore you could actually divine some of the cryptographic variables that you should not be able to infer, and then discover the private key. And they wrote a very nice paper. If you want to look it up, it's great reading. Print it out. And, this is the kind of paper that I think you'd like to take to the bathroom. And after 2 trips, it's kind of fun. You'll sort out what's really happening there. It's called Mind Your P's and Q's. The P and the Q are, of course, the private variables used in ECDSA encryption used in Bitcoin. So what they did was go through the entirety of the Bitcoin blockchain and figure out these situations where somebody reused one of these variables. You're never supposed to reuse one of these variables, and if you do, then suddenly the entire private key falls apart and is made visible to anybody and everybody. So this postdoc working and a couple of other people working with these two fantastic star cryptographers realized this fact, went through the Bitcoin blockchain, and discovered all these instances where indeed people had reused a p-value, and you're not supposed to do that. And so he could easily then have the private key associated with those addresses, and he could easily collect all of the money, all of the coins at those addresses. And so at that point, he looks at the audience and he was like, I got so excited. And I would too, you can imagine, like, you're just a postdoc, you're making, I don't know what, 60K a year or 75K a year or something. And you're a postdoc working on this. And then suddenly you come up with this insight, hey, let me do data mining across the Bitcoin blockchain. Let me find these cases. And you do. And then you found, I think, I don't know, between 100 and 200 cases of this. So 200 cases, 200 addresses that are affected where you can just sort of take the money. And this is work coming from what I consider to be the sort of the 2 stars of their generation, folks slightly younger than me. And then he looks at the audience and says, I got very excited. And then I did another data mining pass, this time looking at how much Bitcoin I could collect, knowing these private keys that I just discovered. And you can guess what happened next. So here's the team, 2 top stars, their teams, a lot of young cryptographers, fantastic minds. And all of them combined come up with this idea. It's peer-reviewed. It's a published idea. It's now then published. And all together, they could collect about like maybe 10 Satoshis or so. And the reason is somebody else very quietly had come up with the same realization, hadn't bothered to write a paper, hadn't bothered to go through the peer review process and expose it to the world, but had instead gone through the chain quietly and collected all of that Bitcoin as his bounty and had just moved on quietly. So there are people out there going through these chains who are far better than the top star academic cryptographers. So I thought that was a cute anecdote. We all got a chuckle out of that. Of course, the poor postdoc. I'm not sure what happened to him. I'm sure he has a great career. The poor postdoc but it did not end up making all that Bitcoin that he thought he could make. Anyway, so let's move on. So let's hopefully not go crazy when we hear about the happenings in the quantum space. That's still many years out. We're going to see all kinds of warning signs. And the horsemen of the apocalypse here, the quantum apocalypse, if it were to happen or if it's coming near, one of the first things you're going to see is Google or Microsoft and or all of those companies change their SSH keys. When that happens, we're going to push a big update to Avalanche that we already have ready that changes the way we do signatures, and we'll switch to a quantum safe signature scheme. So when it's coming, people will take, people who are involved in making it happen will have to first change their things, and that's going to be our big sign for changing what we do, at least in Avalanche. It's going to be a lot harder to change things in other coins. That's their burden, but we foresaw this, and it's the quantum apocalypse is not something that I fear. It's just something that we watch without getting all up in a tizzy over the motion of coins or anything else of that kind. Okay, what else happened last week? I gather that so altcoin ETFs are coming. So there's the Ethereum ETFs, there are the treasury plays. The Michael Saylor trick is being applied to coins other than Bitcoin. It's interesting financial engineering. We should probably dedicate some more time to it. Maybe I should have a guest on the show, and we should talk about it at that time in more depth. But it's all interesting stuff, and there are many people who want to do the same thing for Avalanche as well. And it's wonderful to see that. And so these treasury plays, they enable people to buy into the coin who would otherwise find it very difficult to buy in. And so that's good. It also provides exposure of these systems to a different audience, and that's always good. That's the same audience. That's the boomer audience that's bidding up Bitcoin right now because they finally got the value proposition of Bitcoin. And so again, good for them. Right? Okay. Next thing, big event on the legal side. I try not to go into legal discussions. It's not my expertise area, but that is the Tornado Cash lawsuit. So the U.S. government dropped that lawsuit. It dropped its appeals in that lawsuit. They were doing this crazy thing, harassing the person who wrote code. So I don't know about you all who are listening to this from the United States, but I take great freaking pride in living in a country where we have free speech. I've lived in countries that don't have free speech, and it's night and day. And how far away from AVAX ETF? There's already an AVAX ETF, I think, and there are many filings. So I should probably get a BD person with me. I'm not very good at remembering these things. So there have been quite a few filings for Avalanche ETFs. We are in some index ETFs already as well. So I think that's in the works. Let's see. But the Tornado Cash lawsuit, I'm super freaking proud of living in the US. I'm super freaking proud of being able to say what's on my mind and being able to code up any system I like and not having big bad government monitor what I say and then say you can't say this, you can and cannot say this. That is not something that's American. That is not something that we stand for. That's not something we want to ever see. No matter what happens, you cannot prohibit free speech. You cannot prohibit the free speech of scientists. You just can't do this. So the Tornado Cash lawsuit was completely ill-advised. I don't know what these people were thinking. We were going into, people worry about the U.S. turning into a dictatorship. now. But people should have worried about the U.S. turning into a dictatorship then. The autocratic tendencies were there as well. Like that's when they were really the strongest. They were coming after our space, going after people for publishing code. And that just makes absolutely no sense. So what do you think Genius Act and or Clarity Act may provide to boomers and or the future, in my opinion? So they'll provide clarity. Again, I'm not an expert on legal issues. I leave that to others. So hang on, guys. You got to slow it down and over here. I can only answer one question at a time. Let's bring that question back again. But we were talking about the Clarity Act and the Genius Act. So Clarity or the Market Infrastructure Bill, all of these things, they bring regulatory clarity, which is obvious from the name. They bring regulatory clear-mindedness to the space. There's a whole lot of cleanup that we need in this space, starting from tax treatment of crypto to clearly the regulations related to crypto. There are like 17 different federal agencies that crypto could be monitored or regulated by. These agencies don't connect with each other, they don't coordinate with each other, and at times they have held opinions that are diametrically opposed to each other. So we live in this kind of a bizarro world where one day it's just somebody's stronger on one side and the other day suddenly things are topsy-turvy, and then finally you wake up and Trump's issued his own coin and everything goes out the window. None of this is good. This is pure instability, and I, for one, would like to see some clear-mindedness from my government, and I want some stability from the government. We don't want this flipping and flopping, and I don't want the flip and flop even in my direction. I just want stability and some rationality. So the stablecoin bill brought a lot of stability and clarity to stablecoins, and that's wonderful to see. We're going to see stablecoins actually thrive now, and that's good for the U.S. It allows people outside the U.S. to hold USD. That's an interest-free loan to USD holders. Well, the interest goes to the people who facilitate this. So it's kind of a free giveaway to people who created these stable coins. So expect a lot of people to create a bunch of stable coins. Actually, on that point, let's maybe put a marker on it. I just looked through the list of stable coins, and there is Tether, of course, which is very, very popular outside the US. There's Circle in the US. I don't know what the third one is. And, I bet you don't either. Name the third biggest stable coin. And the third one that was actually listed on the list is one that I never heard of. I'd never seen anybody use it. So it seems to me that there is great opportunity for someone to come up with a number 3, 4, and 5 to compete with those two. There's a lot of fun to be had in that space, and I can't wait to see those people emerge. It's going to be interesting. It can't be the case that Tether and Circle, the two approaches, are the only approaches to stablecoins. It can easily be the case that the stablecoin game could be a winner-takes-all game. Maybe. I suspect it's a winner-takes-most game, but it's not a winner-takes-all game, and there's room for a 3 and a 4 and a 5. And I can't wait what you all would do if you were to get into these stablecoin games. So there's opportunity there. The interest rates are one that's in favor of stablecoin issuers. So it's a good time to consider this, and it's a good time to consider stablecoins denominated in other currencies, especially if there's going to be turmoil in the U.S. So stablecoins denominated in Swiss francs, for example, would be interesting because there's a lot of flight to Swiss francs in an environment where inflation is expected on the USD side. In any case, so stablecoin bill brought a lot of goodness to the stablecoin game. People tell me, just the same people though, it's like, so I don't really put that much weight. These are the same people who say, oh, I understand Bitcoin is digital gold. The very same people are like, oh, I understand stable coins, they have product market fit, which they do. They're right on this one. But I don't put too much weight on these people because they're like the fluffy people who don't really understand anything deeply. But they now have realized that stable coins have value as well. So that's wonderful to see. Fantastic. Again, good for you. You finally got it. There's much more room there. I'm excited. Now, the Clarity Act will bring a lot more clarity to DeFi. I'm super excited. And And then what was it again? The various other bills in Congress. I'm not sure which ones of them will pass. The various other regulations, rather, that are getting posted around. I've seen them. We are closely monitoring them at Ava Labs. Our counsel is one of the best in the space, if not the very best, and he has had a lot of insight in the past and a lot of input into the legislative processes. I'll leave it at that. So we're comfortable with everything that's being discussed, and can't wait to see better clarity and more stability on the legislative side. All right, let's talk a little bit about Avalanche, and so let's actually talk a little bit about where we stand and what the simple narrative is. So I've been thinking about what it is that I say to these people. The very same people are like, oh, I understand Bitcoin is digital gold. I understand stable coins have product market fit. So to them, how do you explain Avalanche? And to them, how do you make it clear to even them that Avalanche is the chain of the future? And I think I have a very simple narrative for them. And the narrative just goes like this. I think that the future will absolutely need 1 million blockchains. We're going to need a blockchain for many applications, for every application that needs publicity, publicness, the ability to be audited, the need to be transparent to its users. So think about which applications you would like that from. The whole world was up in a tizzy about 10 years ago when Facebook ended up not being very transparent about what they did with our data. And so let's see. I got distracted by the meme that got flashed over here. We're doing crazy stuff on the AV side here, but let me go back. The world will need 1 million chains. Bitcoin is digital gold. Ethereum is a world computer, and it's a singular computer because it's a single chain. Everything that happens on Ethereum happens on that one chain. And the same is true for almost every other chain that you can think of. It's the same is true for, I don't know, for Solana. The same is true for Ripple. I don't know that Ripple has a single user, but it's true for them. It's true for every other chain that you could name. Avalanche is different. Avalanche is a chain that's a network of networks. It allows you to build a collection of chains. It's the only one that can support multiple entities creating their own custom chains that work together as an ensemble. So that's the value proposition. If you think that Bitcoin is digital gold, if you think then that Ethereum is the world computer, the singular computer to which you submit a transaction and it turns out a response for you, but then if you think that there will be multiple applications and they will each need their own chains, then you have come to Avalanche. That's the Avalanche value proposition. Now, you may not think that. Maybe you think, okay, what the world needs is a casino. You just buy meme coins, you sell meme coins, you try to get rich overnight. Fine, okay, so then maybe a single chain that's kind of okay fast will do. So you go to Solana. That's okay. And it's not everybody has to believe in the thesis. But the thesis is very clear and crisp. If you think that there will be a need for millions of chains, if you think that applications deserve their own chain, if you think that groups of people will want to have their own chains, then you have come to Avalanche. That's the value proposition. All right, so we've got this, which is the this meme that's being flashed here. Make me smaller. Let's see the stupid meme. I can't even read this. Oh, there we go. Right. So I get this in my DMs. Bitcoin is at all-time highs. People are going to buy alts now, right? And they keep on saying this. I don't know. So as I said, I can't speak to what they will do, but I can speak to historical facts. Historically, they've always done this. There's always been a rotation. So is it going to happen overnight? No, nothing ever happens overnight. You can get lucky with some kind of a meme coin every now and then. You'll get rug pulled after like 3 of those happy outcomes. Nobody really gets consistently lucky at that game. So So anyway, so don't expect craziness, but you can scientifically look back and make inferences from it. And if you scientifically look back and see what's happened, there's always been a rotation. So be calm. And I know these sideways markets wear everybody out, and we had a long one until maybe three days ago or so, and everybody was looking kind of, I don't know, doomy and gloomy. Um, but it passes. It has to pass. After a while, everyone's bored and they're like, hey, I want to go. And they start jumping in. And they're jumping in at the time when macro conditions haven't even changed much. They will change. And that's when the real fun begins. All right, let's go on. So this is Vlad from the CEO of Robinhood and co-CEO, or one of the two founders of Robinhood. Tokenization is perhaps the biggest innovation to come into capital markets in the past decade. Yeah, good, Vlad. That's exactly right. Let's move on. So, by the time your people who are coming at this from TradFi are beginning to repeat what we've been saying for such a long time, then that's a really, really good sign. They're coming. They're coming very slowly. Look how long it took them to understand the Bitcoin value proposition, and they're now coming to realize, hey, we're going to need tokenization, and we're going to need our own chains for different use cases, and that's what Avalanche was founded on. So, if you think that 1 million blockchains will exist in the future, Avalanche is the network of networks that enables that future. That's the value prop. Speed, scalability, and decentralization. We don't trade off any of these things. We definitely do not trade off decentralization to get speed. There's a crap ton of people out there doing this. We have the world's only infinitely scalable network. That's actually not true. There are two others. There's Cosmos and Polkadot that have similar architecture to Avalanche, but they have other issues with the way they work that I'm not going to get into right now. High throughput, near instant finality, low fees. Just check it out. I'm working on improving the wallet experience for all of us. So Core Wallet is incredibly, I don't know what, it's got some delays in it. So it's like, you submitted your transaction or your transaction is finalized. There are some delays in it to not put too much load on the infrastructure that operates the Core Wallet, which in turn kind of makes it seem slow, but it's actually supremely fast under the covers. We're just not showing it to the user. So we're going to show that to the users, and you'll be able to see that this thing is actually blazingly fast. And it's blazingly fast. You might ask, why is it different? The underlying protocol that it uses is fundamentally different. Remember, Solana says, we're so fast. Solana is based on all-to-all communication among a very small set of beefy nodes. Avalanche is not. That's not what we do. So Solana is all about giving up on decentralization. They were so happy with centralizing the set of nodes that run it. They were super happy with centralizing ownership, right? They went with SAM for the longest time. So we don't do that. We're different. So we don't need to have all-to-all communication to achieve consensus. Not every validator in Avalanche needs to send a message to every other validator to achieve consensus, because of the way our consensus protocol works. And so that's how we're able to scale to large numbers of participants in our protocol and yet still achieve insanely low finality times. So we have customizable use cases, etc., etc. Let's go. Let's talk about, I'm not even going to get into this. So the Ethereum L2 vision, I always said it's broken, and I always said, look, all of these L2s will have their own coins, and this will fracture. They're all cannibalistic. This will fracture the Ethereum community. I called this, and I stopped fighting it out with my friends in the Ethereum community. I love everybody in Ethereum. It's my community as well. So I'm not going to fight it out with anybody anymore. We can just wait and see and see where the L2 vision goes. It hasn't gone that far. So there'll be some L2s that make some noise here and there, but at the end of the day, it's just they're not solving the underlying problem that's besieging Ethereum's scalability. They're punting it to an L2. L2s get big. They have the same exact problems. And I don't know what they're going to do. Punt it to L3s, L4s, L5s. I don't know when it ends. It turtles all the way down. And to a techie, this is just like, I don't know why, guys. Like, this is not the way to solve this. I said this to Vitalik many times, so no need to hash it out. We'll see how it all pans out. Everything that I have said here has borne out. So let's move on. Oh, let's talk a little bit about one of my favorite topics, the arena or on-chain social. So if you look at what happens in any space, right? When new paradigms for computing come in, well, they first appear as sort of a general thing. So this like, oh, hey, I have the internet, and there's the internet, and there's one place to go to called Yahoo, kind of like a single chain. And then you're like, oh, okay, that's cool. I guess I go to. In fact, it was called Mike Yang's page of favorites or something like that when I first went to Yahoo when it was starting out. And then, and then of course it tries to push that narrative. Then at some point it conks out, and you get specialization. So this is what's happened with gaming. This is what's happened with the internet. This is what's happening with smartphones. But it's also happening in blockchain. Now we're getting these application areas. One of the key ones is social. And as with everything that happens on blockchain, there's always some initial plays that are based purely on coins, that are based purely on coin generation, coin punting around, and almost always have some positronic mechanics underneath. So this we watched happen with a bunch of the early starters in the social space on other chains. The arena had a tough start. The arena got started, it got hacked, all kinds of strange shenanigans happened with insiders and so forth. But there was a core value proposition there that's really, really cool. And that coolness comes from the fact that it brings together a community that just gets together there, talks around, and creates coins, buys each other's coins. You buy someone's coin to slip into their DMs, and there's like cool stuff happening. And if you haven't checked it out, you should check it out. And it's really, really fantastic to see. I'm seeing something happen with the arena that I saw happen with Gunzilla and Off the Grid, that game that I happen to love so much that is based on Avalanche. So Gunzilla showed, before Gunzilla came onto the scene, we had gaming on chain, right? We had Axie Infinity, we had a bunch of other ones that were all about coins and trading coins and, whatever. Like you take your coin A, you turn it into coin B, then you give some of it to somebody else who was earlier before you. And that's the place where the positronic mechanics came in. And that kind of happened, right? So that's what that was. And then Off the Grid came in and said, look, this is all crap. This is just like coin-oriented, positronic, internally oriented stuff that doesn't bring actual value to the world. These things are short-lived. They make a lot of noise for some time. Ponzi's always do. Sam did. So, but then they never last. So the thing that lasts are the people who create value. You create value by connecting people. You create value by making things happen that would not have happened. And the arena is a fantastic place. It has $450 million of volume. It has, it collects a lot of fees. It's about 13 million in annualized fees. 95,000 tokens have been created already. And so many creators. And, about 1 million trades and only about 300,000 registered users. So in the early days of the arena, I could see what it was and I loved it, but I was a little reticent about saying, hey, come check it out. Because a lot of the discussion there was about coins, buy my coin, do this to my coin, etc. And that's kind of normal and expected. But these days, the arena is a platform unto itself. And if you're sick and tired of the neo-Nazi crap on Twitter or X or whatever the hell that thing is, if you're sick and tired of the blah shit that you see on Facebook or the boomer crap that we see on LinkedIn, and you're looking for a new social place and you like coins, check out the arena. That's the place where people have fun. It's social. You can create coins very, very easily, and you can play with them. But you can also stream. You can also connect with other people. You can also do things that actually meet our social needs. It's really a wonderful place. Check it out. It's only going to get better. I know the team fairly well. They're working incredibly hard behind the scenes. Let's move on. Yeah, we have this thing. That's kind of cool. We have encrypted ERC tokens. So some folks at Ava Labs, some very young folks at Ava Labs actually, fresh out of school, worked on building a new standard for ERC tokens. So we work with a lot of institutions. These institutions often work in coalitions, and they build their own chains that work together. And often what they want to do is communicate with each other. in a way that doesn't necessarily expose all of their business dealings to all of their competitors slash compatriots. What does that mean? So you're JP Morgan, you're Goldman Sachs, you're like this, that, and the other, and you're in a coalition with, you're in a consortium with people, let's say, and you're doing business with them. You don't necessarily want to expose just how much business you're doing with each and every partner. So to that end, what people needed is some kind of an encrypted standard, some kind of a way to mask what's going on in a way that masks what's going on from other participants, but enables an auditor to view what's happening. So for example, in the case of these coalitions, they want to come together. They want to work together. They want to keep their data private, but they also have regulatory restrictions that necessitate that an auditor be able to check what they did, that they should be able to show to an auditor, hey, this is what I did on this date, etc. It's written in stone over here. So to that end, we created the EERC standard. And so now you can create encrypted AVAX, encrypted wrapped AVAX, encrypted BTC.B, encrypted ETH on the Avalanche chain, encrypted Circle, etc. These all allow the holders to conduct their business in a private fashion as far as the rest of the participants are concerned, but they permit an auditor to see what's happening. So I'm very happy that we're at the very forefront of this. This is a great enabler for institutional efforts. There's a lot of other things that are happening on Avalanche. I'm not going to go through this stuff. There's Black Hole Dex is live. There's the Detroit Pistons. Oh, we love those. Not as much as the Brooklyn Nets, because that's my local team. And also Spencer Dinwiddie, whom I happen to love as a player, is a huge believer in crypto. And I've talked to him before, and I've watched him quite a few times on the court. So anyway, so we love the Brooklyn Nets, but Detroit Pistons are also okay, and they have a loyalty program deployed on Avalanche. And I can go through. There's a bunch of other things that happen. I'll pause here. We have a little bit more time. I have a little bit more energy. Oh no, we don't. What is this? 2 p.m. But I started late. Let me go on for another like 10, 15 minutes. Are there questions from the audience? This is the time to flash them. Can we discuss the move towards increasing TPS across C-chain as well as L1s? Absolutely. This is what I work on day, night, and this is what we've all been spending a lot of energy on. There's a bunch of different directions that we're exploring, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to build the world's fastest EVM. So I'm not sure who that title belongs to. There's no good benchmarks in this space. There's a lot of people who lie on benchmarks. That's not what we do ever. So it all starts with a whole lot of efforts on fixing the EVM execution model. So we have one team. Let me just start with the basics. We have one team working on benchmarks because the space badly needs benchmarks. So you can't trust anything anybody says in this space. That's just the starting point, including me. Don't know whatever it's about you. I don't know. I think I have a long track record of speaking truthfully on just about everything that I ever said anything on, but you should always take everything with a grain of salt in the crypto space when it comes to these numbers. Number one, we'll start with benchmarks. Number two, very important sub issue under this benchmarking. TPS is not the only game in town. It's really easy to cheat on the TPS benchmark. You also have to look at latency, and those two things go together. You need throughput and latency. You need low latency, high throughput. And it's very easy to compromise on latency to get higher TPS numbers, and those systems are unusable. So it's just they're so slow. They're just not something you'd ever want to build something on. So that's one effort. We have a big effort on better storage systems for cryptocurrencies. Almost everyone in this space uses LevelDB as the backend database. LevelDB has a particular speed that it can support, and that's the max speed of any chain. You can start with a new fresh chain, and for the first year or so you'll be fast, because when your database sizes are small, you're going to have large numbers. But over time, those things will degrade, and you'll be right back to LevelDB's regular SAD throughput levels when the database size is over a terabyte. So how can you improve this? Well, we've had quite a few database efforts in this space. We've learned a lot. The latest effort that we have is something called FirewoodDB. FirewoodDB takes the Merkleization of the database. That is, so I don't know how technical I should get into this, but these databases tend to be eidetic. That is, they never forget anything you put into them. An eidetic database means that it's always going to be growing. It also means that it's going to have many versions of often the same object scattered across the storage area, where whatever it is, disk or what it is, SSD, what have you. And so that creates a lot of challenges in managing the versions and in managing the hot objects. Plus, these systems will need, these eidetic databases typically need some kind of Merkleization. That is to say, some kind of hashing to have handles that refer to convenient checkpoints. At the end of each block, for example, there's something called a storage route, and that's a nice handle to hang a lot of data off of, because you know the state at the end of that block. And often there will be questions about, well, what's the state at this point in time, and apply this transaction to the state at that point in time. That Merkleization process is currently in most chains, and it's certainly under Geth, is independent of the database itself. One of the things that we're doing with Firewood is combining the two. Merkleization and database storage are done at the same time to yield enormous savings on that hashing path. Another thing that we're doing is managing those versions, the hot objects better, and doing the memory management much better is one approach. And I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. But another thing that we are exploring are different models for storage for EVMs, so that cold objects can naturally migrate away to areas of disk, areas of SSDs that we don't, or blocks on SSDs that we don't touch as much. So so those are things that are happening. The approach that we're taking with Firewood is essentially that of speeding up the entirety of the storage operation by a significant order of magnitude, and I'm really happy to say that Firewood is in the works. There's currently a node that is running the latest version of Firewood. It's synced to the tip of the C chain, and we're actively testing the implementation, and we're actively improving those areas that in parts of the implementation to speed it up. There is a lot more to be done in this space. And I don't want to get into too many specifics yet because Firewood hasn't been released yet. But there's quite a lot more to be done in building a very, very, very fast database. And I have a team on top of this. This is something that is near and dear to my heart and something that I'm really, really excited about. So expect improvements on that front. Another big research push is essentially async execution of transactions on an EVM. There are multiple different ways of doing this. My team gets upset at me for revealing too much. I'm not sure about what exactly is public in this space, but we're exploring async execution such that transactions that are not dependent on each other can execute in parallel. This is going to give us some speed up. Is it going to give us enormous speed up? No, the enormous speed up we already got from coarse parallelism. So if you have an application that is highly demanding, you start your own chain, we support that. And you communicate seamlessly with the C chain, we support that. That's already happening. That's why Dexalot is so fast. That's why Off the Grid is so fast. The Off the Grid is an insanely demanding application. And it's running beautifully on Avalanche because of that coarse parallelism. So all these other people who are like, oh, we need parallel execution on the EVM. Yeah, that's the single chain mentality right there for you. We already ended up soaking up all of the coarse parallelism that's easy to get, the many orders of magnitude. And now on a single chain, we will pick up the micro parallelism for a speed up of 2 to 10x, maybe. I don't know if 10x is going to be possible with realistic workloads, but 2 to 5x from async execution seems eminently possible. And we have a bunch of effort in that direction as well. There's a bunch of other things happening as well. So you might see some changes to the Avalanche EVM that break away from some of the bad decisions made in the Ethereum virtual machine. So I'm not going to get into all of them. There's quite a few of decisions there that were made by people who just were like, whatever, this is experimental stuff, we'll fix it later, and then they become sort of ensconced in stone and become very hard to change. So we're going to change them in a way that creates the least impact for deployed protocol, or rather, almost no impact for deployed protocols, and so I'm really excited about the things to come in that front as well. So expect a full frontal attack on the performance of a single EVM. I'm working day and night on this. I'm really excited. The rest of the team, far brighter people than me, are working on it as well. And I'm really, really excited about where we're going to take this. I heard all AVAX coins will be minted by sometime in 2027. No, that's not true. AVAX coins are different, AVAX, than many others. So Ethereum has a constant mint. It's constantly creating more ETH. Let's see, Solana, I believe, is the same way. They're constantly creating more SOL, and there is no cap to it. AVAX is hard capped. It's exactly like Bitcoin. And the AVAX minting schedule follows the Bitcoin minting schedule approximately, except it started, 10 years after, 8 or 9 years after Bitcoin. So Bitcoin will run out of BTC way before we run out of AVAX. And I didn't do the math. I don't know the answer to when we will run out of AVAX, but it's probably sometime in the next century or so. So we've got a long ways to go. The rate of minting goes down over time. Staking rates go down over time, and that curve follows the Bitcoin curve in a very analogous manner. But in no way or shape do we run out of AVAX in 2027. It's just that the minting rate goes down. AVAX becomes more and more scarce over time. Oh, this is a good question. My pictures at the White House with many influential characters. Yeah, it was interesting. I met a lot of people. I saw Michael Saylor there, and he had this 1,000-yard stare. Like he had, like those pictures you see from World War I. Soldiers come back from trench warfare, and they have this weird look like, I can't do this. It's just kind of like, they're just kind of looking through you into the great distance. I saw a whole bunch of people, obviously the political figures as well. That was fantastic. What secret things am I working on? A bunch, but the thing about secret deals that we're working on is that they're secret. I am not supposed to make things public that are not already public. And so I know you guys want alpha. There's a lot of alpha to drop. We have a full pipeline. Maybe if you take a step back, think about all the coins all the systems what do we know? Let's go through the list. Bitcoin, Ethereum, let's say Solana, what is it? Ripple, Solana, Cardano, etc. Right? Avalanche is of course up there. So of all of these, which ones have a group of people who are at the top of the software development game, who are actively working at all levels of the software stack? Not just the platform. They're not just pontificating on Twitter on what to do, not just flying from conference to conference making noise, but actually building stuff at all levels. How many of these groups have a team that's building the platform, have a team that's building a wallet, have a team that's building whatever else that's being built? So as well as a team that's actively working on business development. So just think about that. I'm very proud of where Avalanche is. I'm very, very proud of our connections. Very proud of being in New York City, of course, connected to all of the asset managers of the world here. Of Avalanche point of sale offering, that's a great question. It's again, it's an alpha, right? So you want me to drop alpha on when the POS offerings are out. So it's a fun area. Let's just put it that way. Payments are going to be big, and crypto is going to play a big role in payments, and so it's an exciting area. kind of similar tool for writing smart contracts as like Remix IDE in your chain. Yes, Remix IDE works really well for Avalanche, works just as well for Avalanche as it does for Ethereum. Just need to provide a different RPC endpoint. It's the same, exact same IDE will work. Have you continued working on a wireless IoT blockchain network? That's kind of interesting. I am surrounded by IoT devices. I don't know. Here is one. I mean, like, this is just, I'm just like reaching over here. Let's pick this one up. I love this little doodad. Somehow I'm fascinated with radiation, and I have this Geiger counter here. And you can see I pulled it off of an ESP32. If that means anything, I love 8266s, if that means anything. And I love the IoT space. There just happens to be no business path over there, but there is a lot to be done with IoT and a fast, low latency system like Avalanche, with a high scalability system like Avalanche, with a green platform like Avalanche, or with a platform that can run on tiny devices like Avalanche. So that's a pet project of mine, to connect my IoT devices with using Avalanche. But it's not something that we're pushing because we haven't encountered the right business direction. So that's not something I'm doing at Ava Labs. But if you're doing it, then I want to support you. And if you're doing something cool, then I want to highlight it. And if you build something amazing that's connecting cool devices to the Avalanche chain, I definitely want to know about it. We'll bring you on the podcast. You and I will chat. I can't wait to see what you guys will build on top of it. I'm super, super excited because I know that this technology is such a good fit for IoT. Amazing good fit. We spoke, and we had a bunch of things that we were doing with some European giants in the IoT space, and so it's an interesting space. We have great connections. If you want connections, I'm happy to connect you with people. But first, it starts with people building cool stuff. Start an IoT chain on Avalanche. It's super cheap to do. You do not need 2,000 AVAX to run a validator anymore. It's so cheap to start your own chain. Just start one. Start putting all your data on it. Start having your devices communicate over it. There is this MQTT platform, as you might have heard. I often have dreams of having enough time someday to build an MQTT equivalent, or MQTT backed by a blockchain, and having my home devices talk to each other, having my home devices here connect with the devices at the office, etc., over a chain. Let's take one more question, and then my voice is going to crap out on me. My AV team is out to lunch or something. Are they out to lunch, or are they trying to find? They're trying to bring up the questions. We're still figuring out this platform. I can't see your comments. I used to be able to see your comments. I can't see them directly myself, so I can't pick them. Anyway, I don't know, what other things there are to say on this day. Let's maybe wrap it up if there are no other questions, or if the AV team cannot bring them up right now. But let's see. Let's take a step back and reconsider where we are. Bitcoin at all-time highs, crazy excitement about random things that didn't happen, like the quantum computing break. But there's renewed activity around crypto. But deep down, there's a constant trend, which is that we are building the next generation of systems that can tolerate misbehavior by participants, even though there's nobody in charge. So that's a pretty tall order, right? That's Byzantine systems. The crypto is going places. The boomers are getting into it. Our child has regressed in a way. We're going back to the Bitcoin value prop days. And more people are now beginning to slowly understand. They're like, oh yeah, I was making fun of NFTs, but now I understand that, that land records are just like NFTs and could be really valuable. Yeah, no shit. They are. And suddenly you've got Bergen County Controller's Office putting all of their records on an Avalanche blockchain. So slowly we regressed a bit, but we're going to go fast, we're going to put it in turbo, recover that distance that we lost to that regressive period that I would rather not talk about or remember anymore, and we'll be in very different territory. The true things that the true harbingers of change here are going to be a change in macro policy, which hasn't come yet, and deep down, one of the things you might be wondering. So one of the things you were wondering until 2 days ago is, hey, are we there yet? Why are we going sideways for such a long time? That's changing, right? The other thing you might be wondering is, are we too late? I mean, is this maybe the sort of the sum capital that's going to move into this space? And on that front, I think my milestone is very, very straightforward, very simple. When you see a stable coin become the number one asset, that's the end of phase one of crypto. That's when you know that there's been enough capitalization. The number one asset in crypto right now is Bitcoin. Someday, one of these, like Tether, Circle, or one of the other stable coins that will emerge will be the number one asset. And when that happens, then you are no longer early. Okay, that's going to be the end of phase one. And it's going to be a different world. People will be competing very differently. But we're still in the early days. I'm super excited about what's to come. I hope you share my excitement. And with that, I think I'll disconnect and enjoy my weekend. And I hope you do too. It's a wonderful sunny day sunny weekend in New York City. And I hope it's sunny and lovely where you are as well. We have many sunny days ahead. Thank you.